Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The barrel of the suppressed pistol pressed against his temple was ice cold, but the hand gripping his throat burned with a heat that made Julian's vision swim. You have 3 seconds to tell me why Marcus Vane sent his little brother to die in my office. A voice growled against his ear, deep and vibrating with lethal intent. 1. Julian couldn't breathe. He was pinned against the floor-to-ceiling glass of the penthouse office, the glittering skyline of Seoul sprawling below them like a bed of diamonds, oblivious to the execution taking place in the sky. He had failed. The encryption key he was supposed to steal was still flashing red on the terminal across the room. He had underestimated the speed of the Viper in the dark. 2. The man whispered, shifting his grip, his thumb pressing bruisingly against Julian's pulse point. He didn't send me to die, Julian choked out, his eyes locking with the reflection in the glass, the terrified blue of his own gaze meeting the predatory, molten gold of Cassian Drax. He sent me, because I'm the only thing you wouldn't shoot on sight. Is that so? Cassian spun him around, slamming him back against the glass. The gun didn't waver. Cassian was a towering figure of sharp tailoring and sharper violence, his dark hair falling over eyes that had dismantled empires. Marcus thinks his pretty, piano-playing brother is a weakness for me? He thinks I have a heart. He thinks you have a code, Julian gasped. He thinks you won't kill a non-combatant. Cassian's lips curled into a smile that lacked all warmth. Then Marcus has forgotten who I am. I don't have a code, Julian. I have appetites. And you just walked into the lion's den wearing a lamb's wool coat. The Vane family and the Drax Corporation had been at war for a decade. It was a war fought in boardrooms with hostile takeovers, and in the alleyways of the Incheon docks with steel pipes and silence. Julian Vane had spent his life sheltered from the blood, hidden away in conservatories, his fingers insured for millions, intended only for Chopin and Rachmaninoff. But Marcus, the patriarch since their father's death, had grown desperate. Drax was winning. Drax was eating their logistics lines alive. Marcus needed the shipping routes encrypted on Cassian's private server. It's simple, Jules, Marcus had said, his hand heavy and possessive on Julian's shoulder earlier that night. You have a photographic memory for complex patterns. Memorize the key. Get out. Cassian is hosting the gala downstairs. The penthouse will be empty. If you don't do this, the family falls. And if the family falls, your piano, your conservatory, your safe little life. It all burns. It was a lie. Julian knew it was a lie the moment Cassian's security system didn't trigger an alarm, but a silent lockdown. It was a trap. Marcus had sent him as bait. Now, hours later, the gun was gone, but the danger remained. Julian sat on the edge of a black velvet sofa, his hands trembling in his lap. Cassian poured 2 glasses of amber liquid from a crystal decanter, his movements languid, predatory. Drink, Cassian commanded, sliding the glass across the obsidian coffee table. I don't drink, Julian whispered. You do tonight. Cassian sat opposite him, legs crossed, the fabric of his suit straining against powerful thighs. Your brother set you up, little bird. The encryption key was fake. The server was a honeypot. He knew I'd catch you. Julian felt the blood drain from his face. Why? To see if I'd kill you. Cassian took a sip, his golden eyes analyzing every micro-expression on Julian's face. If I killed you, he could go to the Council of Families, claim I broke the truce on killing civilians, and have me sanctioned. If I didn't kill you, well, then he knows I want you. Julian blinked, the air in the room suddenly thick. Want me? Cassian leaned forward, the scent of sandalwood and gunpowder invading Julian's space. 5 years ago. The Vienna charity ball. You played Liebstrom no. 3-starred. Julian froze. He remembered. He remembered looking out into the audience and seeing a man in the shadows, watching him with an intensity that felt like a physical touch. He hadn't known it was the enemy then. You remember, Cassian murmured, satisfied. I don't care about your brother's shipping routes, Julian. I own the ports. I own the police. I own the politicians. The only thing in this city I didn't own was the pianist who made me feel human for 4 minutes and 30 seconds. So what am I? Julian asked, his voice gaining a shred of steel. A hostage? A trophy? Collateral? Cashin stood up, extending a hand. It was a command, not an offer. You're going to stay here. You're going to play my piano. And in exchange, I'm going to destroy your brother. Slowly. And you're going to watch. Julian looked at the hand. It was large, scarred, capable of snapping his neck. But his brother had sent him to die. Marcus had looked him in the eye and sent him to the slaughter. Julian took Cashin's hand. Make it hurt, Julian whispered. Cashin pulled him up, pulling him close until their chests brushed. I planned to. Living with Cashin Drax was like living in the eye of a hurricane. The world outside was chaotic. Marcus was raging. The media was speculating on the disappearance of the Vain Heir, and the underworld was bracing for war. But inside the penthouse, there was only silence and luxury. It was a gilded cage, but Julian found he didn't want to leave. Cashin was an enigma. He would leave at dawn, smelling of soap and espresso, and return at midnight, sometimes smelling of blood and ozone. He never touched Julian, not in the way Julian feared, or perhaps started to crave. The dynamic was suffocatingly intimate. Cashin demanded Julian play for him every night. He would sit in the wingback chair, eyes closed, head tilted back, exposing the long line of his throat, while Julian poured his frustration, his fear, and his confusing longing into the keys of the Steinway. You're playing with too much restraint, Cashin critiqued one rainy Tuesday, 3 weeks into the captivity. He stood behind the piano bench, his presence a wall of heat. I'm playing it as written, Julian countered, fingers hovering over the ivories. Fuck the sheet music, Cashin swore softly. He reached over, his hands covering Julian's on the keys. His skin was rough, calloused from violence, contrasting with Julian's smooth, pale fingers. Play what you feel. Play the hate. Play the betrayal. Cashin pressed down, guiding Julian's hands into a discordant, heavy chord that resonated in the hollow of Julian's chest. The proximity was dizzying. Cashin's breath ghosted against Julian's ear. Are you afraid of me, Julian? Yes, Julian admitted breathlessly. Good. You should be. Cashin's hand slid from Julian's fingers up his wrist, up the sleeve of his shirt, resting on his shoulder. But you're not trembling anymore. I'm getting used to the monster. Julian turned his head, their noses inches apart. Cashin's eyes darkened. Careful. If you look at the abyss too long, it might just drag you in. Maybe I want to fall, Julian challenged. Cashin stared at him for a heartbeat, a war warring behind his golden irises. Then, he pulled away abruptly, the loss of contact leaving Julian cold. Get dressed. We're going out. Where? The Emerald Gala. Your brother will be there. It's time we showed him that his pawn has been promoted to a queen. The gala was a sea of sharks in silk and satin. The chandeliers of the grand hall glittered overhead, but the atmosphere was toxic. When Cashin walked in, a hand possessively on the small of Julian's back, the room went silent. Julian wore a suit of white velvet, a stark contrast to Cashin's midnight black. They were light and dark, a visual representation of the corruption of innocence. Marcus Vane stood by the champagne fountain, his face twisting into a mask of rage as he spotted them. He marched over, his entourage of bodyguards trailing behind. Get your hands off him, Drax, Marcus hissed, ignoring the hundreds of eyes watching. Julian, get over here. Now. Julian looked at his brother. He saw the sweat on Marcus's brow, the twitch in his eye. He saw the man who had sold him out. No, Julian said softly. Marcus recoiled as if slapped. What did you say? He said no. Cashin answered, his voice low but carrying across the silent hall. He stepped slightly in front of Julian, a human shield. He's not yours anymore, Marcus. You threw him away. I picked him up. He's my blood, Marcus shouted, losing his composure. You think this animal cares about you, Jules? He's using you to humiliate me. Once he's done, he'll dispose of you like trash. Is that true? Julian looked up at Cashin. Cashin didn't look at Marcus. He looked only at Julian. I don't dispose of things I value. And I have never valued anything more than what I have right now. It was a declaration of war and a confession of love, wrapped in one. Marcus lunged. It was a foolish, desperate move. He reached for a pistol concealed in his jacket. Before Julian could scream, Cashin moved. It was a blur of motion, a wrist lock, a sickening crack of bone, and Marcus was on his knees, Cashin's gun pressed to the back of his head. The crowd screamed. Security swarmed but held back, terrified of the dragon of soul. Don't. Julian grabbed Cashin's arm. Cashin, don't do it. Not here. Not like this. He tried to kill you. Cashin snarled, his composure fracturing. He sent you to die? I know, Julian shouted, tears pricking his eyes. But if you kill him here, you lose everything. You go to prison. You leave me alone. Please. For me. Cashin's chest heaved. The fury in his eyes was terrifying, a raw, unbridled storm. He looked at Julian's pleading face, the hand clutching his tailored sleeve. Slowly, agonizingly, Cashin lowered the gun. He kicked Marcus in the chest, sending him sprawling backward. Get him out of my sight, Cashin commanded the room. If he steps foot in this city again, I will burn the Vane estate to the ground with him inside. He turned to Julian, grabbing his face with both hands, checking him for injuries, ignoring the chaos erupting around them. Did he touch you? No. Julian shook his head. I'm okay. Let's go home, Cashin said, his voice rough. The car ride back was silent. The rain had started, lashing against the windows of the armored limousine. When they reached the penthouse, the adrenaline crashed. Julian felt his knees give way as he stepped out of the elevator. Cashin caught him, sweeping him up into his arms bridal style. I can walk, Julian protested weakly. Shut up, Cashin said, but there was no bite in it. He carried Julian to the master bedroom, a room Julian had never entered. It was vast, dominated by a king-sized bed with gray silk sheets. Cashin set him down gently, then turned to leave. Stay, Julian said. Cashin stopped, his back rigid. Julian, I am hanging by a thread. The adrenaline. The violence. I am not safe for you right now. I don't want safe. Julian stood up, walking across the room. He reached out and touched Cashin's back. I spent my whole life being safe. Being the good brother. Being the perfect pianist. I want the storm. Cashin turned slowly. His eyes were dilated, dark pools of hunger. You don't know what you're asking. You said you've wanted me for 5 years, Julian whispered, stepping closer, his hands reaching up to undo the knot of Cashin's tie. Prove it. Something snapped in Cashin. He groaned, a low, animalistic sound, and crushed his mouth against Julian's. It wasn't a gentle kiss. It was possession. It was a claiming. Cashin's hands were everywhere, tangling in Julian's hair, gripping his waist, pulling him so close that not even air could pass between them. Julian gasped, opening his mouth, inviting the invasion. Cashin tasted of whiskey and danger. He kissed Julian like he was drowning, and Julian was the only oxygen left in the world. They stumbled backward, hitting the bed. Mine. Cashin growled against Julian's neck, biting lightly at the sensitive skin. You are mine. No one touches you. No one looks at you. Only me. Only you, Julian vowed, arching his back as Cashin's hands roamed under his shirt, skin scalding skin. Clothes were discarded in a frenzy. The power dynamics shifted and swirled. Cashin was dominant, his body a heavy weight of muscle and scars, but he worshipped Julian with a desperate reverence. He touched Julian as if he were made of fragile glass that he was terrified to break, but unable to stop handling. When they finally joined, it was slow, agonizingly intense. Cashin held Julian's hands pinned above his head, interlacing their fingers. Look at me, Cashin commanded, his voice ragged. I want you to see who owns you. Julian looked. He saw the man who had been his enemy, the man who was supposed to be a monster. But in Cashin's eyes, he saw a reflection of himself, no longer a pawn, no longer a shadow. He was cherished. He was powerful. I love you, Julian breathed out, the words slipping out before he could stop them. Cashin froze. For a second, the mask dropped completely, revealing a vulnerability that was heartbreaking. He leaned down, resting his forehead against Julian's. I have loved you, Cashin whispered, since the first note you played. The morning sun hit the penthouse, illuminating the tangled sheets and the two figures entwined within them. Marcus Vane had fled the country by dawn. The Vane assets were being liquidated and absorbed by Drax Corp. The war was over. Julian stood on the balcony, wearing nothing but one of Cashin's dress shirts. He held a mug of coffee, watching the city wake up, arms wrapped around his waist from behind. Cashin rested his chin on Julian's shoulder, pulling him back against his warm chest. Regrets? Cashin asked quietly. Julian looked at the horizon. He had lost his family. He had lost his reputation. He had fallen in love with the devil. He leaned back, closing his eyes, feeling the steady beat of Cassian's heart against his back. None, Julian said. Play it again. Play what? Us. Cassian laughed, a low rumble that vibrated through Julian's bones. He turned Julian around and kissed him, deep and slow, a promise of a lifetime of forbidden melodies. And that is how the viper tamed the bird, only to find the bird had wings of steel all along. If you enjoyed seeing Julian bring the most dangerous man and soul to his knees, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you choose loyalty to your family or the enemy who treats you like royalty? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then, prompt image. Prompt, masterpiece, best quality, high-res, 1.2. Korean manhwa style, semi-realistic, digital art. 2 men, BL, Yaoi, man 1. Cassian, tall, muscular build, sharp jawline, messy dark hair, golden eyes, wearing unbuttoned black dress shirt, sleeves rolled up, possessive expression, tattoos on neck. Man 2. Julian, slightly shorter, slender but defined, messy blonde hair, wearing oversized white shirt falling off shoulder, blushing, looking up with loving eyes. Background is a modern luxury. Penthouse bedroom with floor-to-ceiling windows, rain on glass, city skyline of Seoul at dawn, gray silk sheets, soft morning lighting, atmospheric, cinematic depth of field, romantic tension.